Behind the golden gates of Windsor Palace, Prince Alexander and Princess Catherine sit across from renowned journalist Emma Richardson, their hands intertwined yet trembling slightly. For the first time in their 10-year marriage, they're about to reveal the untold story that nearly destroyed their fairy tale romance. A story of forbidden love, family betrayal, and a secret that could have changed the entire royal succession. As the cameras begin to roll, Catherine takes a deep breath and whispers, "The world thinks they know our love story, but they have no idea how close we came to losing everything." The afternoon sun streamed through the ornate windows of the blue drawing room at Windsor Palace, casting dancing shadows across the Persian carpet where Prince Alexander of Britannia and his wife, Princess Catherine, sat preparing for what would become the most revealing interview of their royal lives. The couple, now in their early 40s, had weathered a decade of marriage under the unforgiving scrutiny of the public eye, but today they would finally share their truth. Emma Richardson, the acclaimed investigative journalist known for her ability to draw out the most guarded secrets from her subjects, adjusted her notes one final time. She had been granted this exclusive interview after months of careful negotiation with the Royal Communications team, and she knew the weight of this moment. The British public, along with millions around the world, have been captivated by the royal couple's seemingly perfect romance. But whispers of trouble had been growing louder in recent months. Prince Alexander, second in line to the throne, possessed the classical features that had made him a global heartthrob: sharp jawline, piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold depths of unspoken stories, and dark hair that had begun to show distinguished touches of silver at the temples. Despite his royal bearing, there was something vulnerable about him today, a crack in the armor of perfection he had worn so effortlessly for years. Beside him, Princess Catherine radiated the elegant composure that had made her beloved by the people. Her chestnut hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and her warm brown eyes, usually sparkling with genuine warmth during public appearances, held a hint of nervousness. She wore a simple navy dress that emphasized her natural beauty rather than overshadowing it with royal grandeur. The palace had chosen this particular room for the interview with careful consideration. The blue drawing room had witnessed countless historic moments over the centuries, from state dinners to family celebrations. Its walls, adorned with portraits of previous monarchs, seemed to watch over the proceedings with silent authority. The afternoon light created an intimate atmosphere despite the formal setting, and the film crew had positioned their equipment to capture both the grandeur of the royal residence and the humanity of its current inhabitants. Emma began with gentle questions about their recent charitable endeavors and their children's education, allowing the couple to settle into the rhythm of conversation. Prince Alexander spoke passionately about his environmental foundation, his voice gaining strength as he described recent initiatives to combat climate change in the Commonwealth countries. Princess Catherine's face lit up as she discussed her work with early childhood development programs, her genuine enthusiasm evident in every gesture. But even during these lighter moments, there was an undercurrent of tension that the experienced journalist couldn't ignore. The couple's body language told a story of two people who had learned to present a united front to the world while carrying the weight of private struggles. Their practiced smiles occasionally faltered, revealing glimpses of the real emotions beneath the royal facade. As the interview progressed, Emma gradually steered the conversation toward more personal territory. She asked about their courtship, their wedding day, and their early years of marriage. Prince Alexander's hand found Catherine's, their fingers intertwining in a gesture that seemed both protective and seeking comfort. It was clear that these memories, while cherished, were also complicated by experiences the public had never known about. The turning point came when Emma asked about the challenges they had faced as a couple. For a moment, silence filled the ornate room, broken only by the distant sound of London traffic beyond the palace walls. Prince Alexander and Princess Catherine exchanged a look that spoke of years of shared secrets and difficult decisions. It was Catherine who finally broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. She began to speak about the early days of their relationship, when she was still Catherine Morgan, a successful art curator from a middle-class family in the countryside. She described meeting Prince Alexander at a charity auction, where she had been representing her gallery. He had been 28 then, carrying the weight of royal expectations, but still hoping to find genuine connection in a world where authenticity was rare. Their first meeting had been electric, she recalled, but also terrifying. Catherine had been warned by friends about the impossibility of dating a member of the royal family, about the sacrifices it would require, and the scrutiny she would face. Yet something about Alexander had made those warnings fade into background noise. He had approached her work with genuine curiosity, asking intelligent questions about the artists she represented, and for those precious moments, she had forgotten he was anything more than an attractive, well-educated man with kind eyes. Prince Alexander picked up the story, describing how he had found himself thinking about Catherine long after that evening ended. He had been involved in several high-profile relationships before, each one scrutinized and ultimately damaged by media attention and royal protocol. With Catherine, he felt something different, a sense of peace and authenticity that he had never experienced before. But pursuing a relationship with her had meant navigating a complex web of royal traditions and family expectations. Alexander revealed that his family had initial reservations about Catherine's background. While she came from a respected family, she lacked the aristocratic pedigree typically expected of royal spouses. The Queen Mother, Alexander's grandmother, had been particularly vocal in her concerns, viewing Catherine's middle-class origins as potentially problematic for the monarchy's image. Catherine spoke about the intense preparation she underwent to integrate into royal life. Beyond learning protocol and etiquette, she had to develop a thick skin against criticism and learn to live under constant observation. Every outfit choice, every public appearance, every word she spoke was analyzed and often criticized by media and royal watchers. The pressure was unlike anything she had ever experienced, and there were moments when she questioned whether love could truly conquer the enormous challenges they faced. The couple described their wedding as both the happiest and most stressful day of their lives. While millions celebrated their union as a modern fairy tale, they were acutely aware of the weight of expectations now resting on their shoulders. Catherine was no longer just Alexander's wife. She was a representative of the crown, with all the responsibilities that entailed. Their early married life had been a period of adjustment that tested their relationship in unexpected ways. Alexander struggled with balancing his royal duties with his desire to protect Catherine from the more brutal aspects of public life. Catherine grappled with the loss of privacy and independence that came with her new role, while simultaneously working to earn the respect and acceptance of both the royal family and the British people. The birth of their first child, Prince James, had brought immense joy, but also new pressures. As third in line to the throne, their son would carry the weight of royal expectations for birth. Both parents were determined to give their children as normal a childhood as possible while preparing them for their future roles. This balancing act required constant vigilance and difficult decisions about privacy versus public duty. Catherine revealed that motherhood under the royal spotlight had been particularly challenging. Every aspect of her parenting was subject to public opinion, from her choice to breastfeed to her decisions about schooling. She described feeling isolated at times, unable to seek advice from friends without risking exposure of private family matters. As the first part of the interview drew to a close, Emma sensed there were deeper revelations yet to come. The couple's carefully composed exteriors had begun to crack slightly, revealing hints of the more serious challenges they had faced. When she asked about the lowest point in their marriage, both Alexander and Catherine fell silent, their joined hands tightening almost imperceptibly. Princess Catherine finally spoke, her voice heavy with emotion she had clearly worked hard to contain. She mentioned the year we almost lost everything, but stopped herself before providing details. Prince Alexander's jaw tensed, and Emma could see the internal struggle as he debated how much to reveal. The afternoon shadows had grown longer, and the interview was temporarily paused to allow the couple a brief respite. During this break, Emma observed them stepping out onto a private balcony overlooking the palace gardens. Even from a distance, she could see the intense conversation taking place between them, their body language suggesting they were debating whether to continue with the more revealing portions of their story. When they returned to their seats, there was a new determination in their demeanor. Princess Catherine looked directly into the camera and made a statement that would set the tone for the revelations to come. She spoke about the importance of honesty in their roles as public figures, about their responsibility to show that even fairy tale marriages require work and face real challenges. Prince Alexander added that they had decided to share their complete story because they believed it could help other couples facing similar struggles. He emphasized that, royal or not, marriage requires commitment, forgiveness, and sometimes difficult conversations about fundamental differences in values and goals. As this first session concluded, Emma knew she had only scratched the surface of what promised to be a groundbreaking series of interviews. The couple had demonstrated their willingness to be vulnerable and honest, but the most significant revelations were clearly yet to come. The way they looked at each other suggested they were steeling themselves for much more difficult conversations ahead. The late afternoon light had transformed the blue drawing room into something almost magical, with golden rays highlighting the emotional intensity that had developed throughout their conversation. As the cameras stopped rolling, Prince Alexander and Princess Catherine remained seated, their hands still joined, both lost in thought about the journey they had just begun to share with the world. Emma Richardson gathered her notes, knowing she had witnessed something extraordinary. This interview would undoubtedly reshape public understanding of the royal couple, but more importantly, it seemed to be serving as a form of healing for two people who had carried heavy burdens in silence for far too long. The next session would delve deeper into the crisis that had nearly destroyed their marriage, and Emma could only imagine what revelations awaited. 3 days later, Emma Richardson returned to Windsor Palace, this time meeting the royal couple in the more intimate setting of the Queen's private study. The change in venue was deliberate. Today's conversation would require the kind of privacy that only the inner sanctum of royal residence could provide. The study, with its floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and personal photographs, felt more like a family home than a palace, creating an atmosphere conducive to the deeply personal revelations that were about to unfold. Prince Alexander appeared more subdued than in their previous session, his usual confident posture replaced by the slightly hunched shoulders of a man preparing to relive painful memories. Princess Catherine sat beside him, her composure intact, but her hands betraying her nervousness as she smoothed her skirt repeatedly. Both had clearly spent the intervening days in serious contemplation about how much of their private struggle they were willing to share. Emma began gently, asking about the period following the birth of their second child, Princess Isabella. Catherine's face softened as she spoke about her daughter, describing the joy of having both a son and daughter, but also acknowledging that 2 children had intensified the demands on their time and energy. The logistics of royal life with young children were complex, involving security considerations, public appearances, and the constant balancing act between family privacy and public duty. It was during this period Prince Alexander revealed that the first serious cracks began to appear in their relationship. The pressure of their royal roles had been manageable when they could support each other fully, but with 2 young children requiring attention and an increasingly demanding schedule of official engagements, they found themselves growing apart rather than growing together. Catherine described feeling like she was failing at everything. Not present enough as a mother, not prepared enough for her royal duties, not supportive enough as a wife. The perfectionist nature that had served her well in her previous career became a source of torment in her royal life, where mistakes were magnified and criticism was constant. She began experiencing what she now recognized as postpartum depression, though at the time she attributed her struggles to personal weakness. The royal family's reaction to Catherine's emotional struggles revealed deep institutional challenges with mental health awareness. Prince Alexander spoke with barely contained anger about the palace's initial response, which focused more on maintaining appearances than providing his wife with the support she desperately needed. There was an expectation that Catherine should simply push through her difficulties, that royal duty took precedence over personal well-being. This institutional blindness to mental health issues created a rift between Prince Alexander and his family that had never fully healed. He found himself in the impossible position of choosing between supporting his wife and maintaining family harmony. The stress of this conflict began to affect his own mental state, leading to what he described as the darkest period of his adult life. Catherine revealed that she had seriously considered leaving royal life entirely during this time. The thought of returning to her previous life, away from the constant scrutiny and pressure, became increasingly appealing. She had even gone so far as to research what legal options might exist for stepping back from her royal role while maintaining custody of her children. The couple's different approaches to handling stress had exacerbated their problems. Alexander tended to internalize his struggles, maintaining a stoic exterior while battling inner turmoil. Catherine, by contrast, needed to process her emotions through conversation and connection, but the royal environment offered few opportunities for such openness. This fundamental incompatibility in their coping mechanisms created a growing emotional distance between them. Their intimate life suffered dramatically during this period. The spontaneous affection and passion that had characterized their early relationship was replaced by polite distance and careful interactions designed to avoid conflict. They began sleeping in separate bedrooms, officially due to their different schedules, but actually because physical proximity had become emotionally painful for both of them. The breaking point came during a state visit from a European royal family. Catherine was expected to host several high-profile events, including a formal dinner for 80 guests and a charity gala. The pressure of performing perfectly under such circumstances while struggling with depression and marital difficulties proved overwhelming. During the formal dinner, she excused herself and didn't return, leaving Alexander to make awkward explanations to their distinguished guests. Prince Alexander found Catherine in their private apartments, packing a suitcase with shaking hands. She told him she couldn't continue living a lie, pretending to be happy and fulfilled when she felt like she was drowning. The image of his wife, this strong woman he had fallen in love with, reduced to such desperation, finally broke through his own emotional barriers. That night marked a turning point in their relationship, though not in the way either had expected. Instead of the angry confrontation both had been bracing for, they found themselves having the most honest conversation of their marriage. Catherine spoke about her feelings of inadequacy and isolation, while Alexander admitted his own struggles with the pressure to be the perfect royal husband while watching his wife suffer. They talked until dawn, sharing fears and disappointments they had been holding inside for months. Catherine revealed that she had felt like she was losing herself entirely, that the person she had been before marriage had disappeared under the weight of royal expectations. Alexander confessed that he had been questioning whether their love was strong enough to survive the unique pressures of royal life. This conversation led to their decision to seek professional help, a choice that was controversial within the royal family. Therapy was viewed with suspicion by older generation royals, who believed private matters should remain private, and problems should be solved through duty and discipline. However, Alexander made it clear that seeking help was non-negotiable if their marriage was to survive. Finding the right therapist proved challenging due to security concerns and the need for absolute discretion. They eventually worked with Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a respected couples counselor who had experience with high-profile clients. Dr. Mitchell's approach focused on helping them develop better communication skills and understand how their different personalities and backgrounds affected their responses to stress. The therapy sessions were initially uncomfortable for both of them. Catherine struggled with the idea that seeking help might be seen as weakness, while Alexander found it difficult to be vulnerable in front of strangers. However, as they progressed, they began to rediscover the connection that had brought them together originally. One of the most significant breakthroughs came when they realized how little time they had been spending together without royal obligations or children. Dr. Mitchell encouraged them to schedule regular time alone together, treating it with the same importance as official engagements. This simple change began to restore the friendship that had been the foundation of their romance. They also worked on developing strategies for managing the unique stresses of royal life. This included setting boundaries about media consumption, creating private spaces in their homes where royal protocol didn't apply, and establishing signals they could use to support each other during difficult public events. The process wasn't linear or easy. There were setbacks and moments when both questioned whether their efforts would be sufficient to save their marriage. Catherine described one particularly difficult session where they had to confront the possibility that they might be better off apart, focusing on co-parenting their children rather than trying to maintain a romantic relationship under such challenging circumstances. However, this honest examination of their alternatives helped them realize how much they truly valued their relationship. Beyond their love for each other, they shared common values, complementary strengths, and a deep commitment to their children and their role in the monarchy. These realizations provided a foundation for rebuilding their romantic connection. An unexpected source of support came from Prince Alexander's younger sister, Princess Sophia, who had gone through her own marital difficulties several years earlier. Sophia had maintained strict privacy about her struggles, but she reached out to Catherine during this period, offering both practical advice and emotional support. This gesture marked the beginning of Catherine's acceptance into the inner circle of the royal family in a more authentic way. Princess Sophia helped Catherine understand that every member of the royal family faced similar challenges in balancing personal happiness with public duty. She shared strategies for maintaining mental health under constant scrutiny and helped Catherine develop a thicker skin against media criticism. Most importantly, she provided validation that Catherine's struggles were normal and understandable rather than signs of personal failure. The couple also made the decision to be more selective about their official engagements, prioritizing quality over quantity. This meant disappointing some organizations and facing criticism from royal watchers who expected them to maintain the demanding schedule typical of senior royals. However, they found that being more rested and emotionally stable actually made them more effective during the engagements they did accept. Their children, Prince James and Princess Isabella, had been affected by the tension in their parents' relationship, even though Alexander and Catherine had tried to shield them from their difficulties. As their marriage began to heal, they noticed positive changes in their children's behavior as well. James, who had become increasingly clingy and anxious, began to relax and show more independence. Isabella, still very young, seemed to sense the improved atmosphere at home. The couple made a conscious decision to be more present and engaged parents, even if it meant sometimes putting royal duties second. They began taking turns reading bedtime stories, established weekly family game nights, and made sure at least one parent was available for important school events. These changes required careful coordination with their staff and sometimes disappointed royal watchers, but they prioritized their children's emotional well-being over public expectations. As this second interview session drew to a close, it was clear that Prince Alexander and Princess Catherine had navigated their crisis with courage and commitment. Their willingness to seek help and do the hard work of rebuilding their relationship had not only saved their marriage, but had made it stronger and more authentic than ever before. Emma Richardson recognized that she was witnessing something unprecedented in royal history. A couple willing to speak honestly about mental health struggles, marital difficulties, and the very real challenges of balancing personal happiness with public service. Their story was far from over, and the next session would explore how they had rebuilt their relationship and what lessons they had learned that might help other couples facing similar challenges. 1 week later, Emma Richardson met with Prince Alexander and Princess Catherine in the Palace Gardens, a setting that reflected the growth and renewal theme of this third conversation. The couple appeared visibly more relaxed than in previous sessions, their body language suggesting they had found peace with their decision to share their story so openly. The morning sun filtered through ancient oak trees, creating a natural cathedral of light that seemed appropriate for the healing journey they were about to describe. Princess Catherine began this session by explaining how therapy had taught them to rebuild their relationship from the ground up. Rather than trying to return to how things had been in their early days, they had worked to create something new, a partnership that acknowledged the realities of their royal roles while protecting their emotional connection. One of the most important changes had been learning to communicate more effectively. Prince Alexander described how they had developed what their therapist called daily check-ins, brief conversations each morning and evening where they shared not just logistical information about their schedules, but also their emotional state and any concerns about upcoming events. These check-ins had seemed artificial at first, but over time, they became natural and invaluable. Catherine explained how knowing that she would have dedicated time to discuss her feelings with Alexander each day made her feel less alone, even during the most challenging periods. Similarly, Alexander found that expressing his own concerns regularly prevented the buildup of stress that had previously led to emotional explosions. The couple also worked on developing what they called emotional first aid techniques for high-pressure situations. They created subtle signals they could use during public events to communicate support or distress to each other. A gentle touch on the arm might mean, "I'm struggling and need support," while a specific smile could convey, "You're doing great, I'm proud of you." These communication improvements extended to their intimate life as well. Catherine spoke candidly about how the stress of royal life had affected their physical relationship, explaining that intimacy required emotional safety and presence that had been lacking during their difficult period. Rebuilding their romantic connection had required patience, understanding, and a willingness to be vulnerable with each other again. They had also learned to protect their relationship by creating sacred spaces and times that were off limits to royal obligations. Sunday mornings became inviolate family time, with no official engagements or business calls permitted. They designated certain areas of their private residences as protocol-free zones, where they could interact as simply husband and wife, parents and partners, rather than as royal representatives. The process of healing had not been without setbacks. Catherine described a particularly difficult period about 18 months into their recovery, when the pressure of a major royal tour had triggered some of her old patterns of anxiety and self-doubt. She had been scheduled to give several speeches during the tour, and the prospect of speaking publicly while still feeling emotionally fragile had overwhelmed her. Prince Alexander's response to this setback demonstrated how much they had both grown. Instead of trying to minimize Catherine's concerns or pushing her to fulfill obligations she wasn't ready for, he worked with their staff to modify the tour schedule. Some speaking engagements were shifted to him, others were restructured to require less from Catherine, and additional support staff were assigned to help her prepare for the events she did handle. This experience taught them both the importance of being honest about their limitations and asking for help before reaching crisis points. Catherine learned that admitting vulnerability was not weakness, but wisdom, while Alexander discovered that protecting his wife's well-being was not being overprotective, but being a true partner. Their children had played an unexpected role in their healing process. Prince James, now old enough to notice changes in household dynamics, had begun asking direct questions about why his parents seemed happier. This led to age-appropriate conversations about emotions, relationships, and the importance of talking through problems rather than ignoring them. Princess Catherine revealed that explaining their challenges to their children in simple terms had actually helped her process her own healing. Telling James that sometimes grown-ups feel sad or worried and need help from friends and doctors to feel better had reinforced her own understanding that seeking support was normal and healthy. The couple had also made significant changes to how they approached their royal duties. Rather than accepting every invitation and trying to meet all expectations, they became more strategic about their commitments. They focused on causes that genuinely mattered to them personally, finding that their authentic passion made them more effective advocates. Prince Alexander's environmental work became more personally meaningful as he connected it to the world he was creating for his children. His speeches gained emotional depth when he spoke not just as a royal duty, but as a father concerned about climate change's impact on future generations. This authenticity resonated with audiences in ways his previous, more formal presentations had not. Similarly, Catherine's work with early childhood development became deeply personal as she drew on her own experiences as a mother and her understanding of how emotional health in early years affects lifetime well-being. Her advocacy for mental health resources for families was informed by her own journey and carried a conviction that made her a powerful spokesperson for these causes. The couple made the difficult decision to be more open about mental health in their public roles. This began with small gestures. Catherine speaking candidly about the challenges of motherhood during informal conversations with other parents, Alexander acknowledging stress and pressure during speeches about work-life balance. Their breakthrough moment came during a visit to a family support center, where they met other couples struggling with similar challenges to their own. Catherine found herself sharing more personally than she had ever done in public, talking about her own experience with postpartum depression and the importance of seeking help. The genuine connections they made during that visit convinced them that their transparency could serve a greater purpose. This realization led to their decision to become more active advocates for mental health awareness, particularly within the context of family relationships. They began supporting research into postpartum depression, funding programs for couples therapy, and speaking more openly about the pressures facing modern families. Their advocacy work became a source of healing and purpose that strengthened their relationship further. Working together toward shared goals reminded them of their common values and gave them opportunities to support each other in positive, productive ways. Catherine described the profound satisfaction of turning their pain into purpose, using their difficult experiences to help others facing similar struggles. The couple also addressed the ongoing challenge of media scrutiny and public criticism. Through therapy, they had learned to distinguish between legitimate criticism that they could learn from and malicious attacks that they needed to mentally dismiss. Catherine explained developing what she called a criticism filter, evaluating whether feedback was coming from a place of genuine concern or simply malicious intent. Prince Alexander described learning to see media attention as an unavoidable aspect of their role rather than a personal attack. This shift in perspective had reduced his anger and defensiveness, allowing him to focus on their positive impact rather than dwelling on negative coverage. They had also worked with their communications team to be more proactive in sharing their authentic selves rather than simply reacting to media narratives. This included being more selective about interviews, but more genuine when they did speak publicly, leading to coverage that better reflected their true personalities and values. The couple discussed how their improved relationship had positively affected their extended family relationships as well. Catherine's stronger sense of self had made her more confident in family gatherings, allowing her to contribute more authentically to family discussions and traditions. Alexander's reduced stress had improved his relationships with his siblings and parents, as he was no longer constantly on edge about protecting Catherine from family dynamics. They revealed that the Queen had initially been concerned about their therapy sessions, worried about what private family matters might be discussed with an outsider. However, as she observed the positive changes in both Alexander and Catherine, and particularly in their children, she had become supportive of their approach. Princess Catherine spoke about a conversation with the Queen where Her Majesty had admitted regretting not having similar resources during her own challenging periods in marriage and motherhood. This moment of vulnerability from the monarch had helped Catherine feel more accepted and understood within the royal family structure. The couple also discussed how their experience had influenced their approach to preparing their children for royal life. Rather than simply teaching protocol and duty, they were working to help James and Isabella develop emotional intelligence and resilience. They wanted their children to understand that seeking help and expressing emotions were signs of strength, not weakness. Prince Alexander explained their decision to involve their children in their charitable work from an early age, not as photo opportunities, but as genuine learning experiences about service and empathy. They hoped to raise children who would see their royal roles as opportunities to make positive differences rather than burdens to bear. As this session drew to a close, it was evident that Prince Alexander and Princess Catherine had not only survived their crisis, but had transformed it into a source of strength and purpose. Their journey from near separation to renewed partnership demonstrated that even relationships facing extreme pressures could heal and grow with commitment, professional help, and mutual support. Emma Richardson recognized that their story would resonate with couples far beyond royal circles, offering hope and practical wisdom for anyone facing relationship challenges. The final sessions would explore how their experiences had shaped their vision for the future and what advice they would offer to others struggling in their relationships. 2 weeks had passed since the last interview, and Emma Richardson noticed an unmistakable change in the atmosphere as she arrived at Kensington Palace for the 4th session. Prince Alexander and Princess Catherine greeted her with warmth that seemed genuine rather than politely royal. They had chosen to meet in their private sitting room this time, a cozy space filled with family photographs and personal touches that spoke to lives lived beyond the public eye. The couple appeared more connected than Emma had ever observed them, occasionally finishing each other's sentences and sharing quick glances that conveyed entire conversations. It was as if the act of sharing their story had strengthened their bond even further, creating a new level of intimacy through mutual vulnerability. Princess Catherine began this session by reflecting on how their crisis had fundamentally changed their understanding of marriage. She explained that she had entered their relationship with fairy tale expectations, believing that love would be sufficient to overcome any challenge. The harsh reality of their struggles had initially felt like failure, but she had come to understand it as maturation. She described marriage as an ongoing choice rather than a destination. Each day required the decision to prioritize their relationship, to communicate openly, and to show up for each other despite external pressures. This active approach to love had proven more sustainable and rewarding than the passive romantic ideal she had originally embraced. Prince Alexander built on this theme, explaining how their experience had taught him that strength in marriage came not from avoiding conflict, but from developing better tools to navigate it. He spoke about learning to see disagreements as opportunities for deeper understanding rather than threats to their relationship. The couple revealed that they had established new traditions and rituals specifically designed to strengthen their bond. Weekly date nights became non-negotiable, protected from royal obligations with the same intensity as state functions. These evenings weren't always elaborate. Sometimes they simply cooked dinner together or took long walks around their estate, but they provided consistent opportunities for connection without the pressure of public appearances. They also implemented what they called gratitude practices, taking time each week to specifically acknowledge things they appreciated about each other. Catherine explained that this simple exercise had helped them focus on positive aspects of their relationship, rather than getting caught up in daily stresses and minor irritations. The conversation turned to how their renewed relationship had affected their parenting approach. Prince Alexander described becoming more emotionally present with their children, moving beyond simply providing for their needs to actively engaging with their feelings and experiences. He had learned to have difficult conversations with James and Isabella about emotions, mistakes, and challenges rather than maintaining the stoic royal facade, even within their family. Catherine revealed that their marital struggles had actually made her a better mother in some ways. Having worked through her own emotional challenges had given her greater empathy for her children's difficulties and better tools for helping them process complex feelings. She was now able to model emotional honesty and resilience rather than simply expecting her children to be perpetually well-behaved and happy. The family had also established new traditions around mental health and emotional wellness. Regular family meetings gave everyone opportunities to share concerns, celebrate achievements, and work together to solve problems. These weren't formal affairs, but natural conversations that normalized emotional expression and collaborative problem solving. Their approach to discipline had evolved as well. Rather than simply imposing rules and consequences, they worked to help their children understand the reasoning behind expectations and develop internal motivation for good behavior. This required more time and patience, but resulted in children who were more self-aware and emotionally intelligent. The couple discussed how their experience had changed their perspective on their royal roles and future responsibilities. Prince Alexander explained that he now saw his position as an opportunity to model authentic leadership rather than simply fulfilling traditional expectations. His willingness to be vulnerable and seek help had actually enhanced his credibility and effectiveness as a public figure. Catherine described feeling more confident in her royal role once she stopped trying to be perfect and started focusing on being genuine. Her authentic interactions with the public had been better received than her previous, more careful performances. People responded to her obvious care and sincerity, even when she made small mistakes or showed emotional reactions. They revealed plans to use their platform more intentionally to promote mental health awareness and relationship wellness. This would include supporting research into family therapy, funding programs for couples in crisis, and speaking more openly about their own journey. They hoped their story would encourage others to seek help before reaching crisis points. The conversation touched on their relationship with the media and public scrutiny. Both acknowledged that they would always face criticism and invasion of privacy as members of the royal family, but they had developed healthier ways to cope with these pressures. They focused on their positive impact rather than dwelling on negative coverage, and they had learned to compartmentalize public criticism so it didn't affect their private relationship. Catherine spoke about developing what she called emotional boundaries with public opinion. While she remained committed to serving the public well, she no longer allowed her sense of self-worth to be determined by approval ratings or media coverage. This shift had been liberating and had allowed her to take more authentic risks in her public role. Prince Alexander revealed that he had initially struggled with feeling responsible for protecting Catherine from all criticism and negativity. Learning to support her without trying to control public reaction had been an important part of his personal growth. He had discovered that his wife was stronger and more resilient than he had given her credit for, and that his overprotectiveness had sometimes been more hindrance than help. The couple addressed questions about their intimate relationship with refreshing honesty. Catherine explained that physical intimacy had been one of the last aspects of their relationship to fully heal, requiring patience and gradual rebuilding of trust and emotional safety. They had learned that a satisfying intimate life required ongoing attention and communication rather than simply assuming physical attraction would sustain itself. They discussed how therapy had helped them understand their different approaches to physical affection and intimacy. Alexander tended to express love through actions and physical presence, while Catherine needed verbal affirmation and emotional connection. Understanding these differences had allowed them to better meet each other's needs rather than feeling frustrated by mismatched expectations. The couple revealed that they had also worked with a specialist in relationships and trauma to address how the intense pressure of royal life had affected their ability to be vulnerable with each other. The constant need to maintain public composure had created habits of emotional guardedness that took deliberate effort to overcome in their private relationship. Their discussion turned to future plans and dreams beyond their royal obligations. Catherine spoke about her desire to eventually establish a foundation focused on supporting families in crisis, drawing on her personal experience to create resources that might have helped them during their difficult period. She envisioned programs that would make therapy and relationship support more accessible to families regardless of their financial circumstances. Prince Alexander shared his hope that their children would grow up with a healthier understanding of duty and service, seeing their royal roles as opportunities for positive impact rather than burdens to bear. He wanted James and Isabella to understand that seeking help and showing vulnerability were compatible with leadership and public service. The couple discussed their evolving relationship with Prince Alexander's family and the broader royal institution. Catherine described feeling more accepted and understood by her in-laws now that she had stopped trying to be someone she wasn't. Her authentic self, complete with occasional struggles and imperfections, had ultimately been more appealing to the family than her previous efforts at flawless performance. Prince Alexander revealed that their experience had actually strengthened the monarchy by demonstrating that royal family members could be both relatable and dignified. Their willingness to address real-life challenges had enhanced public trust rather than diminishing royal mystique. He believed the institution would be stronger if other family members followed their example of authentic engagement with the public. They spoke about their hopes for other couples facing similar pressures, whether in public positions or simply dealing with the universal challenges of modern marriage. Their key message was that seeking help was a sign of strength and commitment rather than failure. They emphasized that marriage required active effort and ongoing attention, particularly when external stresses threatened the relationship foundation. Catherine offered specific advice for wives struggling with the balance between supporting their husbands and maintaining their own identity. She emphasized the importance of preserving individual interests and friendships, even within the constraints of partnership. She had learned that she could better support Alexander when she felt fulfilled and confident in her own right. Prince Alexander spoke directly to men who might be struggling to balance their protective instincts with respect for their partner's independence. He had learned that true partnership meant supporting his wife's growth and autonomy rather than trying to shield her from all difficulties. This shift had actually strengthened their relationship and enhanced Catherine's resilience. As this fourth session concluded, Emma Richardson reflected on the transformation she had witnessed in the royal couple. Their journey from crisis to renewal had been marked by courage, commitment, and a willingness to challenge conventional expectations about both marriage and royal life. Their story offered hope and practical wisdom for anyone struggling to maintain authentic relationships under pressure. The final session would focus on their vision for the future and the legacy they hope to create through their renewed partnership and authentic approach to public service. The final interview session took place in the palace's private garden pavilion at sunset, the golden hour light creating an almost ethereal atmosphere as Prince Alexander and Princess Catherine prepared to conclude their unprecedented journey of public revelation. 3 weeks of interviews had transformed not only how the world would see them, but how they saw themselves and their relationship. Emma Richardson observed that the couple now moved with a synchronicity that spoke to deep emotional connection. Their earlier nervous energy had been replaced by serene confidence, the peace that comes from having nothing left to hide. As they settled into their chairs for the final time, both seemed to radiate a contentment that was entirely new to their public personas. Princess Catherine began this final session by reflecting on the unexpected consequences of sharing their story so openly. She had anticipated that revealing their struggles might damage their reputation or diminish public respect for their roles. Instead, the response had been overwhelmingly positive, with countless messages from couples thanking them for normalizing relationship challenges and mental health struggles. She described reading letters from military wives dealing with deployment stress, business executives struggling to balance career demands with family life, and young mothers battling postpartum depression. The common thread in all these communications was gratitude for the royal couple's willingness to admit that even seemingly perfect lives require hard work and support to maintain happiness and connection. Prince Alexander revealed that their story had opened doors for conversations with other members of the royal family who had faced similar challenges in silence. His uncle had quietly shared his own experience with depression during a difficult period in his marriage, while a cousin had asked for referrals to the therapist who had helped Alexander and Catherine. Their openness had given permission for others to acknowledge their own struggles and seek help. The couple discussed how their experience had reshaped their understanding of their royal duties and the monarchy's role in modern society. They had come to believe that the institution would be stronger if it embraced authenticity and relatability rather than maintaining artificial perfection. Their willingness to show vulnerability had actually enhanced public trust and engagement with the royal family. Catherine spoke about her evolution from someone who felt she needed to earn her place in the royal family to someone who brought unique value through her experiences and perspective. Her background, initially seen as a limitation, had become one of her greatest assets in connecting with people from all walks of life. Her struggles with mental health had given her credibility when advocating for support services that she might never have understood otherwise. Prince Alexander described how their crisis had forced him to examine his own assumptions about leadership and masculinity. He had grown up believing that strength meant never showing weakness or asking for help. But he had learned that true strength required vulnerability and the wisdom to seek support when needed. This insight had made him a more effective leader and a better father. The conversation turned to their children and how the experience had shaped their approach to raising future members of the royal family. Prince James, now older and more aware of his parents' public roles, had been told an age-appropriate version of their story that emphasized the importance of talking about problems and asking for help when needed. Princess Isabella, though still young, was growing up in a household where emotional expression was encouraged and mental health was prioritized. Both children were being raised with a clear understanding that their eventual royal roles would be opportunities for service rather than burdens to bear, and that seeking support would always be seen as wisdom rather than weakness. The couple revealed their plans for a new initiative focused on supporting families and relationships within their charitable work. This Strong Families Foundation would provide resources for couples therapy, mental health support, and parenting education, with a particular focus on reaching families who might not otherwise have access to such services. Catherine explained that she wanted to use her platform to destigmatize therapy and mental health support, particularly for women facing the pressures of motherhood and partnership. Too many women suffered in silence, believing they should be able to handle everything perfectly without help. Her own story demonstrated that seeking support was not only acceptable, but essential for thriving in challenging circumstances. Prince Alexander shared his vision for changing how mental health was discussed in traditionally masculine environments. His military connections and sporting associations gave him unique opportunities to reach men who might be struggling with depression, anxiety, or relationship problems, but felt unable to seek help due to cultural expectations about masculine strength. The couple discussed their long-term goals for their marriage and family. They had learned that relationships required ongoing attention and investment, like tending a garden that needed regular care to flourish. They committed to continuing their therapy sessions periodically, even during good times, viewing mental health maintenance as essential as physical health care. They revealed plans for regular marriage retreats, times when they would step away from all royal obligations to focus entirely on their relationship. These wouldn't be escapes from their responsibilities, but investments in a partnership that made their public service possible and meaningful. Emma Richardson asked about their advice for other couples facing crisis, and their responses reflected the wisdom gained through their difficult journey. Catherine emphasized the importance of honest communication, even when conversations felt scary or uncomfortable. She had learned that avoiding difficult topics only made problems worse, while addressing issues directly, though challenging, usually led to deeper understanding and stronger connection. Prince Alexander stressed the value of professional help, particularly for couples facing unique pressures or challenges. He encouraged people not to wait until crisis points to seek support, viewing relationship counseling as preventive care rather than emergency treatment. He also emphasized that seeking help demonstrated commitment to the relationship rather than failure within it. Both urged couples to be patient with the healing process, acknowledging that real change took time and effort. There would be setbacks and difficult moments, but persistent commitment to growth and communication could overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. They had learned that marriage was not about finding the perfect person, but about becoming better partners through shared challenges. The conversation touched on their relationship with the media and public scrutiny moving forward. They acknowledged that sharing their story so openly might invite even more analysis and criticism, but they felt the potential benefits outweighed the risks. If their experience could help even a few couples avoid divorce or seek help earlier, the increased attention would be worthwhile. Catherine described developing what she called purposeful transparency, being selective about what private information to share publicly, but ensuring that what they did reveal served a meaningful purpose beyond mere publicity. Their story had demonstrated that royal family members could be both accessible and dignified, relatable and respectable. Prince Alexander revealed that their experience had influenced his perspective on his future role as king. He hoped to modernize the monarchy's approach to mental health and family wellness, making support services more available to royal staff and encouraging other public figures to seek help when needed. He believed the institution would be stronger if it embraced human vulnerability rather than maintaining artificial perfection. The couple shared their hopes for their children's future relationships, hoping that James and Isabella would grow up understanding that healthy partnerships required work, communication, and mutual support. They wanted their children to enter relationships with realistic expectations and strong emotional intelligence, equipped with the tools to build lasting, authentic connections. Catherine spoke about her gratitude for the journey they had traveled together, acknowledging that while their crisis had been painful, it had ultimately strengthened their relationship and deepened their understanding of themselves and each other. She felt they were now better partners, better parents, and better public servants because of their willingness to confront their problems honestly. Prince Alexander expressed similar sentiments, describing their struggle as a gift that had taught them invaluable lessons about love, resilience, and authentic service. He felt their relationship was now built on a stronger foundation than before their crisis, based on deep understanding and mutual respect rather than simply attraction and compatibility. The couple concluded their series of interviews by expressing hope that their story would contribute to changing cultural attitudes about mental health, relationship challenges, and the importance of seeking help. They wanted people to understand that struggling didn't mean failing, that seeking support demonstrated strength, and that authentic relationships required ongoing effort and attention. As the sun set completely and the final interview concluded, Emma Richardson reflected on the extraordinary journey she had witnessed. Prince Alexander and Princess Catherine had demonstrated remarkable courage in sharing their most private struggles with the world, transforming their pain into purpose and their crisis into a source of hope for others. Their story would undoubtedly change public perception of the royal family, but more importantly, it would offer practical wisdom and encouragement to countless couples facing their own challenges. By choosing transparency over perfection, they had created a legacy of authenticity that would influence both the monarchy and society for generations to come. The royal couple sat quietly for a moment after the cameras stopped rolling. Their hands joined as they watched the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky. They had shared their truth with the world, and in doing so, they had found a deeper truth about themselves and their capacity for love, growth, and service. Their fairy tale had become something even more valuable, a real story of human resilience, commitment, and the transformative power of authentic love.